How to replace sash cords on hung windows. If you want to keep historic hung windows instead of replacing them, you can replace frayed or severed sash cords that counterbalance them on weights, so the windows don't risk falling and breaking when opened or closed. Steps. 1. Read through these instructions in advance so you're not stuck leaving a window open as you go out for a tool or parts. The basic pieces you're working with are the window sashes, usually upper and lower frames for one or several window panes each, vertical cylindrical weights with a loop at the top, sash cord, pulley wheels, lower wood pieces affording access to the side weight travel paths, and in some cases, metal guiding strips that keep the window on a fixed track. Windows will vary in some details, and these instructions describe replacing the bottom sash, but the same principles apply to replacing cord on an upper sash also and can be adapted to your window's particulars. This is a layman's guide but written from experience. 2. Purchase sash cord measured to match your original or to roll well in the pulley wheel. This might be a 1/4 inch, 0.6 centimeters, or for a larger window, 5/8. It must be cotton or cotton with a nylon core, because if you use nylon, it will jam up unexpectedly in the pulley wheel after you've completed the insulation, leaving you unable to close the window without cutting the cord. The same applies to flag cords on poles with pulleys. Nylon cords can jam there too. Don't worry, the cotton should last for decades. 3. Start preparing the sash. On each side inward from the window there are normally 2 vertical trim strips to help keep the window sash gliding in place and reduce drafts. If the sash does not run along any metal guides at its sides, use care so the sash doesn't fall during this step. Score any paint on their forward edges with a sharp point to minimize flaking and pry them off with a paint scraper and small pry bar or screwdriver. Then raise the sash to maximum height on its normal path and drive temporary screws sideways into the wood directly beneath it or in front on each side to hold it in place. 4. If there are metal edge guides that the window slides along, similar to a T-cross section, remove the screws holding each vertical metal guide. You may have to bend 1 or 2, but if the bending is minimal, this should not be a problem. The bottom strip will not need to be pulled, though if bent, it should be straightened with pliers so the sash seats properly when closed. Replacing these guides is annoying but can be done. Keep the screws from it handy in a baggie or cup. In an unusual case you might have to remove 2 or so of one side by hacksawing it, but hopefully you can simply pull it down and out once all screws are removed. Ideally you should only have to remove one guide in order to remove the window. 5. Remove the temporary screws holding the sash in place with and carefully take it down. If you're replacing cord on both sides, it should just pivot forward. If you're replacing just one cord, look at the other one and seriously consider replacing it in parallel anyway. 6. Remove the screw. There will probably be a lower wooden piece on either side to give you access to the weights. It may be held in at its top with a screw. Remove the screw. The piece will probably not yet pry out willingly, however, you will have to score and pull toward the center the wooden strips outward from it that retain the sash at the exterior. This should free up your lower side wood pieces enough to remove them. If you damage the wood a little it should still be usable, but try to pull those back strips out a little and keep any splintering minimal. 7. Take out the weights on each side, which might be 5/8 lb cast iron solid vertical rounded cylinders with a loop at the top. Cut off any old cord. Remove any old cord remaining in the sash's upper side channels where they attach to it by pulling out on the cord, which is probably held with a pair of nails, and note where the nails were set. Pen marks might help, but you should see the holes, and see if you can use the pair of nails that probably hold it. You may need a screwdriver or pliers to pull the cord left over. Make sure the pulleys spin normally, chip or scrape any old paint that restrains them. Now tape a heavy nail or screw onto a piece of monofilament fish line and feed it through the top pulley to let it down inside where the weights rise and fall. This will be faster and easier than feeding the cord straight through. Tie off the opposite end of the fish line to some sash cord and pull it back down through the pulley with the fish line. Detach the fish line and tie the cord's bottom end to a weight. 2 snug half hitches will probably do, and trim the excess to 0.25. Lean the weight against the wall in the inside side space it rides in. 8. Measure off the cord by raising the weight to maximum. then cutting it at a point slightly below, maybe 1-2, where it would reach, resting in the window's inside side channel with the window resting at bottom. Then tie a knot into the end to hold it while you get the other side so the cord doesn't disappear through the pulley hole, the weight will hang. Now, keeping a good grip on the window, since this is where extra hands would be useful, and ask for help if it's available, pull one of the knotted cords down again, lifting the weight, untie the knot and nail the cord sideways through its center to reattach it to the sash, nailing it about where the old holes were. The nails should be flush and low enough on the sash to let its top edge rise above the pulley when fully raised. Repeat for the other side. Trim any excess cord in the side sash channels, but leave 1 beyond the nails if it will stay in the channel. Raise the sash back on its new weights while you work below again, though there should be no need now, with the weights attached, to hold it up out of the way with screws. Vacuum out any dust and scrapings in the side enclosures and window bottom. 9. Reinstall the bottom side wood pieces by temporarily putting in a screw into the center of their outer faces to help you maneuver them into place. You can fill the holes with putty later if you want, then pull the backing strips out toward window center again just enough to let you maneuver the bottom pieces into place. They may also drop down a little in order to seat properly. Let the outer vertical backing strips back in place and remove the temporary screws from the bottom side pieces. 10. If you have to replace old metal strips taken out earlier, generously oil or trace thoroughly with pencil, graphite, all glide surfaces on both window guide fin and side guide and straighten any bends as best you can. Don't use WD-40, it may leave a residue. Reinstall them with the screws. To get the guides and sash to mesh together, you may have to slide the bottom few inches of sash into the top few inches of outer guide, enough to let you position it with the window and screw it into place in the side with the sash high, using the existing holes. Meshing the strips can be trying but can be done. Then slide the window back down, which it should do without too much difficulty. 11. Replace the inward trim strips you originally pried off, between you and the sash, by nailing them back in. Don't use screws or glue, so you or anyone else can repeat this task when needed. Lightly caulk and paint to seal the forward joint edges if desired. 12. Pour yourself a tall iced lemonade. If guide fins were involved, you probably started on this 2-4 hours ago. Tips. Don't use stretch cord because it will stretch a little too much and end up looking ugly. After inserting the cord and tying it to the sash weight, pull the weight to the top of the window and secure it in place with a pair of vice grips so the weight will not fall back down while you fasten the cord to the sash. Be patient. This involves a number of steps and could take several hours for a small window. Warnings. If the sash rides along metal guide strips, try to keep bending somewhat minimal. Be careful not to drop the window sash once it's free, or subject it or its glass to extreme stress, so as to avoid replacing a cracked or broken pane of glass too. Things. Paint scraper and screwdriver. Cordless drill, standard and/or Phillips bits, and up to 6 drywall screws for temporary use. Utility knife to cut cord and/or score paint. Cotton or cotton exterior sash cord to match original cord. Monofilament fish line. Hammer and thin nails. Vacuum cleaner. Caulking and touch-up paint, optional.